Would Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan actually consider leaving the Big Ten? Well, it makes sense for them to.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That is right. It is a Locked On crossover to look around the Big Ten Conference. My name is Seyko, and I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Jacob Goins, the host of Locked On Hoosiers. And we do this weekly where we give a bigger perspective outside of just Penn State and Indiana. We still talk about Penn State and Indiana here, but the fuller perspective of the Big Ten Conference, which it's been floated. The idea is out there that it makes sense for Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State to go rogue to leave the Big Ten. Hey, well, the Big Ten's still together at this point in time. They're pushing a 24-team playoff and no conference title games. I think that's interesting. We'll also talk about expectations for spring football. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork is needed. Vanilla cake flavor, that caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section. Be a part of the conversation. Jacob, there needs to be some context here, so I'll provide it and then let you have a go at it here. Because Indiana should be offended by this, right?
We are.
So this comes from a podcast that was part of the College Game Day podcast where Reese Davis and Dan Wetzel were talking about how it makes sense for Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State to leave and become this independent trio where they work out their own conference schedules because they are making a bulk of the money that funds the Big Ten Conference when it comes to football.
And that makes sense, right? On the forefront, the idea. And honestly, I want to give props to Reese Davis and an ESPN podcast for actually putting that out there and talking about this because...
Well, it's not the SEC. This isn't drama in the SEC, so that's why they did it. That's exactly why they did it. So
they're allowed.
It's totally fair. It's controversial. You think they would have this conversation about the SEC on ESPN?
Heck no. But at least they did it somehow, right? And they're talking about Ohio State.
They mentioned the Big Ten.
Yeah, they had to. They meet their monthly quota to talk about the conference that's won 3 championships in a row, right? So it makes sense for those teams to have the discussion or at least bring up the idea. And I promise you they've already done it because of the money idea, right? And their argument is, well, why should we share? Because we know the revenue sharing, right? We know conferences bring in all the TV dollars and then they divide it up amongst the schools and from other things as well, but TV being the main one. And so the argument that Reese Davis and them are presenting here is the schools at the top are tired of this basically being a socialist type of organization here. And I'm not getting into politics. I'm saying
Sounds like you're getting political.
Nope, not on this show.
Sounds like
taking all the money and you spread it out evenly. And the folks at the top are saying, wait a minute, I don't know if we want to be a part of this anymore. And I think it makes sense for those 3 schools that are mentioned. But here's where I have a problem. Why is Indiana not mentioned in this? You're telling me that Indiana is not must-see TV now? You're telling me that Curt Cignetti, the guy himself, and the defending national champions should not be included in this? I think they should. I think they will. And I've talked about if there's any sort of split, right, with the teams in the Big Ten and the teams in the SEC and whatever conferences, right, that leave and tell the NCAA to kick rocks, Indiana 5 years ago would have been left on the outside and it wouldn't even been a thought. The Hoosiers are included in that now, but it makes sense for Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan and the teams at the top to go and do their own thing. It's a gamble, but I could see it happening one day.
Well, how do we think Oregon and USC feel about this? That they wouldn't be included. I think that it does extend beyond. I think those 6 are warranted right there. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Indiana, USC, and Oregon. It's like, thank goodness Indiana won a national title, because anything short, I don't think we're even floating Indiana if they don't win the national title. I mean, okay,
totally
maybe if they get there, different. But if they, they went, say they go 8-4, 9-3 this season, and it's like, oh, good, Curt Cignetti, and has them, batting above 300, right?
Right.
But they haven't done any. Well, they've done something, right? They're now a reputable brand, and you're seeing more money, because this is all about revenue. It's not, well, well, this team was good and this team was better. It's literally about brand power.
Has
And
nothing to do with wins and losses. Yep.
Michigan, Ohio State are definitively top 5 brands. The last time I checked, Penn State's definitively a top 10 brand. Indiana is rising. You become a top brand by winning a national title overnight, literally overnight. So I can understand why Indiana would have a stake here. And I'm not going to say, well, hey, I'm the Penn State guy. So I'm the Penn State podcast host. So this three, they're fine. They don't need any more. They're exclusive here. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting about it all is, okay, how would they pull it off? Right. And well, it would actually be, it's not easy. It's definitely risky, but the reward would be worth it, right? Notre Dame, you would need to get Notre Dame on board. The way this would look is that Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State would form an alliance. They would, because the arbitrary numbers, the estimates are that Michigan and Ohio State pull in $200 million alone. The game pulls in $200 million. So the idea is, why is Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan all receiving $78 million when one game alone between two of these schools makes $200 million? Ohio State and Penn State make not a fraction of that. They make close to it, not necessarily 200 mil, but maybe 150. Again, I don't know the numbers for every single game, but the ratings are up there. Penn State versus Ohio State has always been a top 10 game every single season. So that's why it's in Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan's interest. It's like one game does this, yet we get a $78 million cut. Why?
Yeah, and I think, though, again, I think it would be a gamble. I do. It's a huge gamble. You are stepping outside of the comfort, if you will, of the Big Ten. You
wouldn't be alone, at least. You would have, like I said, that alliance. It's not just because Notre Dame's on an island, right? They do their own thing. You would call Notre Dame and say, hey, be a part of our alliance, and Notre Dame would agree.
I don't know if they would, because they've got a monopoly. They have a monopoly. They have their own TV station. They're doing their own thing. They have every game that they want on NBC and have no competition. No matter who they're playing, they are on NBC, whether it's 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. They are
on. Get to play. Notre Dame versus Michigan would be must-watch TV every year. Notre Dame versus Ohio State. Notre Dame versus Penn State.
I don't think Notre Dame agrees to play those games, Zach. That's the problem.
Oh, that's what it is.
Why would they play the games if they already are sharpened into the college football playoff?
They don't play the games.
They don't. Their schedule is weak, and they've got a under the covers deal with the college football playoff, which we'll talk about momentarily, to always get in if they have a good season. So it's a gamble, and I think those teams would be taking the risk again to get away from the comfort and the security of the Big Ten, because right now they guarantee that when Ohio State plays Bowling Green, it's still on TV. When Penn State plays, Villanova, it's still on TV. If you were to step away out of the Big Ten in terms of your TV contracts, those games wouldn't be televised. They wouldn't, because nobody could afford it on the smaller level to produce it at the high enough level that it needed to be. So I don't know if it'll happen, but if it does, I'm telling you, Indiana needs to be involved in that.
The appeal to it, because I think the risk is, the appeal is obviously you keep all the money, or you get the biggest slice of the pie. Mm-hmm. I guess in theory, the rest of college football could say, well, we're not going to do business with you. The TV networks still would, because they got to pay bills. So they're not going to say, well, you ruined the sanctity of our sport, so we're not going to televise your games. No, that's not how it's going to work. Yeah. But how you could throw a wrench into this, again, I'm playing devil's advocate, is if you're Michigan State and you want to schedule a non-conference game with us, that's not going to happen. We're in Michigan versus Michigan State. It's done. Okay. Penn State's unrivaled, right? So Penn State, I guess Maryland wouldn't schedule them, but you think about that next group of schools, you would need all 130 FBS schools to basically take a stand, or, give or take, right? If we're doing the math, I guess that would make it close to under 130, right? You would need all those other schools to collectively take a stand and say, we're not doing this. We are not going to schedule games with you. You can schedule against each other and keep your 100, 150, $200 million from a game, but good luck. Okay. And then if you're the college football playoff committee, okay, well, Ohio State and Michigan played each other. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. That's where Notre Dame would be so important, or another school in Indiana. Oregon, USC. In theory, it could work. It probably would. But the reason, again, there's the possibility that the rest of college football gets together and says, this isn't happening. We're not allowing this.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. But good news is, right, even if that were to happen, 24 teams can make the playoff if the Big Ten gets its way. So does Ohio State and get involved there? Penn State, Indiana, right? What a collision of worlds we could have here, Zach Seyko.
Yeah, 24 team playoff. That's what we're talking next here, because it might come at the cost of the college football. It might come at the cost of the conference championship games, and the Big Ten's pushing for it. We'll talk about it next year on this Locked On Crossover.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Dawn Staley and South Carolina remain on top of the SEC standings after handing Tennessee their worst defeat in program history with a final score of 93-40. In the 43-point win, South Carolina shot 69% from the field. Tessa Johnson had a perfect shooting night, scoring 24 points, shooting 4 for 4 from the floor, including 2 threes, and made all 4 of her free throws. And UCLA remains undefeated in Big Ten play, topping Michigan 69-66 as Player of the Year contender Lauren Betts put up a double-double, scoring 16 points, collecting 16 rebounds, and adding 5 assists and 3 blocks. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Brought to you by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. All right, use your NBA profit boost right now on any NBA futures bet, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. So as we get games getting back up right out of the All-Star break, if there's a team that you're looking at that you think's going to make a run, maybe win it all, and you're going to put a future bet in anyways, you may as well use your profit boost and get entered for a trip to the NBA Finals and the NBA sweepstakes. Just visit FanDuel.com right now to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Well, the Big Ten is still put together. We talk about the rumors. We talk about the ideas floated. Another idea that is being floated, but is actually tangible here because the Big Ten Conference is pushing for this, is a 24-team playoff model. Okay, should they, 12 or 14 or 16? We're jumping all the way to 24. And this would be 23 Power 4 teams, Power 4, right? It's the Big Ten. Again, we debated the SEC. Are they even the Power 2? All I know is the Big Ten stands alone. The SEC is somewhere. They're floating. And then the Big 12 and the ACC. Hey, the ACC was in the conference championship game. SEC was not. So, but this would, what's interesting about this, Jacob, is that they would do away with conference championship games. And I'm really surprised that the Big Ten would be on board with that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the Big Ten is pushing this because it means more teams for the conference. I
guess that makes sense. So you can scrap the championship game because you get more Big Ten teams that are in other hypothetical conference games. It's just no label.
Yeah, I mean, would you rather 2 teams from the Big Ten be competing in the Big Ten championship, or would you rather them just go ahead and move on to the college football playoff?
And have 8.
You just want to go to the playoff, right? And so I'm not surprised that the Big Ten is pushing this in general because it's more teams for our conference. And I think there are years where the Big Ten deserves more teams. I think there are years where the SEC deserves more teams in than they get. But I've never been a fan. I'm an anti-expansionist, always have been, always will be. I don't believe that more is better in this situation. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe, Zach, that every year in college football is created equal. And what I mean by that, and the dramatics that I just said a moment ago of the different years, is there are some years where you can make an argument for 7 or 8 teams from a conference to make it to a 24-team playoff. Yeah. There's also years where 1 or 2 teams is willing or incapable and able to make it to the college football playoff. Look at the ACC this past year. right? Miami was the only competent team in that conference. Duke won the conference championship game and didn't make the playoff. That tells you everything you need to know. Would you want it to be set up for them to have 5 teams automatically make it in because we said so? I don't want
not. 7 and 6 Duke is in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want an extra Big Ten team on top of 4 extra ACC teams. That's horrific. That's terrible for the sport. That's terrible for the product, and that does not crown a true national champion. But I am in favor of waxing conference championship games. I think even with the current format, we should wax conference championship games because they're an extra game. Teams don't want to be in them. All they're there for is generating revenue, which is going down by the year. And I think they are a waste of time, energy, and effort.
Well, what about a conference playoff that gets you into the college football playoff? So you shrink the college football playoff or keep it where it is, but have a Big Ten semifinal and a Big Ten championship or a Big Ten wild card of some sort. And then the same thing, the SEC, ACC, again, that would help you play your way in. So that's a way to keep the college football playoff, still not irrationally maximized, but you allow more teams to play and then the conferences keep their dollars a little bit. But again, the networks, I think it would benefit. Again, I haven't done all the math in my head, but it's an idea. It's still a lot of college football. And I think there's definitely burnout. The one thing that I kept when you're talking about, okay, 24 teams. And it's just, when you think about it, okay, I don't want to see number 1. I wouldn't want to see a replay of this playoff where number 1 Indiana faces number 16 whomever. Number 1 Indiana versus number 9 Alabama was boring. That was
boring
atrocious.
For some, Zach. Boring for some.
Boring for some. Heck, number 1 Indiana versus Oregon was boring for some. It was bad for some. So that's the gap. The gap in competition is so wide. Now I'm starting to understand why my grandfather hypothetically would say, I don't know what he'd actually say right now about a college football landscape, but I know he wouldn't like this because this is why the bowl system was in place. And I can't believe I would agree with the people that would say, well, the old way was better. This is why the system was in place, because the competition gap was so incredibly wide. You matched up the top 2 teams, and then you had the next best 2 and the next best 2, and they were comparable. I do not want to see Indiana or whomever. So in this case, guaranteed, most likely, Ohio State, Oregon. I guess I'm trying to think of a third team out of somebody from the SEC. I'm not sure, but whoever that number 1 team is, what's the point? What's the point of having them beat the number 16 seed by 50? Right. What is the point of that?
Well, the issue too, Zach, is we have accepted that idea on the basketball side, right? The 64, now technically 68 teams that make the NCAA basketball
tournament. Might be 96.
Right. God, don't even get me started. They're talking triple digits now. It's unbelievable. We've accepted it, and there's a reason it took however many years until the last 4 or 5 for a 1 seed to lose in the first round of the tournament. There's a reason that is a historical moment. There's a reason that 2 seeds dominate 15 seeds, 3 seeds dominate 14 seeds. They happen, yes, but it's so rare. And do we really think that 15 seed that just got hot one day and beat the 2 seed is really the better team? No, you just got beat in a 40-minute basketball game. And we have applied that acceptance to the college football world, and it's just not the same. We're talking 12 or 13 players compared to 85 to 100. It's a different world in college football.
It's a different talent sport.
Gap. It's a completely different sport, and I don't understand. The only people pushing for this are the ones in charge whose wallets are on the line. That's the only people pushing for this, including our own conference of the Big Ten, and I don't like it.
Oh, and it's not like they're even hurting for money. It's just that they want more
They're
of it.
greedy.
I get it. You and I want more money. I think a lot of people listening and watching want more money, and that's okay. But at what point does it compromise the product? At what point does it compromise the actual schools that may or may not get involved at the end of the day? And it's like, well, it's worth it if you're playing a 17, 18 game schedule. That doesn't matter when it's, look, football's different than basketball. You can play 3 or 4 games in the span of 7 days and be okay. Yes, it'll be exhausting, and there's always risk for injury at any point in time. But football, you're literally trying to hit the person across from you. There's still football compared to basketball in the NCAA tournaments are apples to oranges here. I don't
Sure.
like that. Don't, for anybody that wants to make that comparison, well, basketball does an expanded tournament. And I understand that the FCS and, they do 2014 playoffs. It's just the FBS is different when we're talking about the teams that can just outspend the rest of the competition. Okay. There's North Dakota State is a juggernaut. And hey, they're coming up to the FBS level. But again, that's a different set of circumstances where there isn't this significant advantage. It's truly roster construction, coaching, X's and O's. There is no financial aspect of it when it comes to the FBS or the FCS, D2, D3. When we're talking about the best of the best in FBS, there is a significant difference between how Ohio State operates in football and how Duke operates in football.
Yep. Totally agree, which is why more teams is not better. More is not better for the college football playoff, but we know it's going to happen. They continue to present it. They continue to discuss it. They're eventually going to get their way. We're just going to have to accept it when it does. And we can be mad about it until then, Zach.
Well, what's the point of the regular season? What's the point? That's your prove it moment. Okay. At some point, so the NFL should just let in 20 teams. At some point it compromises the product. There's some, when I saw Indiana beat up on Alabama the way that they did, I said, there's 8. You might have to regress and go back to 8 teams or go to 6.
Yeah.
Because there's too many teams that just do not belong. Okay. And these
Totally
matchups, they're exhausting. So I'm not saying you go all the way back to the BCS, but consider shrinking the playoff itself to 6 or 8 teams and then having these conference because the teams are a little more closer there within the conference. So we'll leave it at that. And we're going to talk about it plenty more. I know that much. Hey, spring ball. Okay. Instead of hypotheticals and what ifs, what about certainties? Penn State and Indiana are getting ready to start spring practice expectations because they're going to be sky high for both programs. Penn State's not rebuilding either. They think they can win right away. That is coming up next here on this Locked On Crossover.
Tax season does not have to take over your life. Okay, this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Look, I know some of us want to sit down and try to handle it on our own, right? You want to get all the papers and get it all put together and put it in a nice, pretty folder and hand it off to the IRS. But chances are, you're probably going to do it wrong. Why not let a professional do it? Why not let a TurboTax expert sit down, do it for you, and take all your stress away? It's a huge time saver, and it gives real peace of mind knowing it's an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in, if a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year. Just file by February 28th, so a little over a week of time, okay? Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointments today. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which might be some sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. The cool thing about 5 Hour Energy, they've got a wide variety of flavors. There literally is something for everyone, and I like that there's 0 sugar. It's going to give you the boost that you're looking for with a 5 Hour Energy shot, but it doesn't have all the, jacked up sugar like an energy drink or something like that. So there's a ton of flavors, and I've picked a couple that I think you need to have on your mind, okay? How about a little grape? It's classic, but it gets the job done, right? Concord grape flavor is similar to kind of a grape juice or candy a little bit, the soft, rounded sweetness of it, and it's so smooth. It just tastes pure. It tastes right, okay? So grape is classic. Then I step outside the box a little bit. I'm going strawberry banana. It's got the fruity taste to it, kind of like a smoothie. You get the energy. Plus, it's very low acidity, and it's very easy to drink, okay? Those are the ones for me. Those are my choice. Maybe a dark horse is the new cotton candy if you want to go that direction as well. And so you can find your new flavor right now. A 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon.
Spring ball is around the corner, if you can believe it. Penn State's going to be in an interesting spot. I'm curious to know your angle on it, Jacob, from Indiana, because they're coming off of a college football, title win. Curt Cignetti already mentions, he gloats respectfully that, well, we actually don't practice that much, and we're very conscious of how much time we spend. It's your efficiency when you spend time. So Curt Cignetti has the perfect model when it comes to this, and that's why they're winning right away, because he knows what to do. I'll tell you who does follow it: Cale Sanderson and Penn State wrestling. It's not
Yeah.
this is a Big Ten football show, but Curt Cignetti and Cale Sanderson have similar values when it comes to managing a team, managing a program. They're different people. They operate differently and interview differently. But I'm saying that when it comes to managing their coaches and their athletes, they operate pretty similarly. So your expectations here for Indiana spring practice: a player just trying to maintain you got a target on your back. So how are you looking at it?
Yeah, I think maintaining is a great word. I mean, can you stay at the level that you were playing at, practicing at, eating at, sleeping at, walking at? You know what I mean? Like going to class, whatever it is you were doing. I don't care if you were grocery shopping aggressively. Can Indiana keep that up now that they've reached the mountaintop? And Curt Cignetti says the right things, right? He said, yeah, we're going to celebrate this tonight, may even have a cold beer or two, but then I'll take a day off. We'll take a day to rest, celebrate, and then we're right back at it. And I believe that. I truly believe that, because I subscribe to this in my personal life, and I think Curt Cignetti subscribes to this as well. Hard work pays off. And that's what he's done his whole life, is work hard, coach hard, play hard. And that's why the Hoosiers just won a national championship. So for me, yeah, there's a lot of exciting players. Joe Higel on the defensive line. You've got two guys from Kansas State on the defensive end that are going to be just monsters. Josh Hoover, Nick Marsh. I could sit here and spit all the names at you for the next hour. You can catch more of that on Locked On Hoosiers if you're interested. But I want to see Indiana compete, practice, play, and talk at the exact same level that they were, because there are a lot of new guys between the draft and eligibility and portal and things like that. Indiana does have a lot of new players. How quickly can they pick that up? How quickly can they learn the standard, meet the standard, and then possibly raise the standard at IU football? Tell me what the expectations are for Penn State, because you said it, they're not rebuilding. They feel like they can win right away there in Happy Valley, huh?
Well, I want to see where the chemistry is. I think that's the biggest focus, because you have a lot of talented players, but how do they all fit together? Okay,
Sure.
You bring the best from Iowa State, you keep most of the best from Penn State. And I think that's what was surprising, to some. Okay, well, there was supposed to be this mass exodus, and James Franklin landed at Virginia Tech, and just about everybody's going to follow him. Key depth pieces, and don't get me wrong, Ethan Grunkemeyer was a good player, and I still liked the upside of a Luke Reynolds and stuff. The place that got the most Penn State talent when you're looking at snaps and production was Tennessee. So yeah, I'd like Amari Campbell back, and Dejon Lane and Chaz Coleman. They all went to Tennessee. And Jim Knowles, conveniently enough. But Penn State being able to keep the foundation of its roster and a lot of key contributors from a season ago, and guys that still have a lot to prove. And then you bring over the key contributors from Iowa State. But how do they all fit together, right? I think there are some key camp battles, because while Rocco Beck's not going to be throwing a ton because he's coming off of a shoulder surgery. So QB2's a battle. Running back's going to be a battle. You got to solidify some offensive line spots. You know what your wide receiver room's mostly going to look like. The tight ends, I would say that Penn State has the best tight end room in the Big Ten, maybe even in college football, with 3 starting capable tight ends. They'll run a ton of 12 and 13 personnel. And then on the defensive side of the football, just figuring it out. So chemistry, because it's a lot of newness from the Penn State perspective. We don't know what the offense is going to look like per se. We can put an idea together, especially even the defense. You bring over Danton Lynn, who wasn't even at Iowa State. He was at USC. So how does he work with the Iowa State talent, the Penn State players that stayed, and then bring his philosophy from USC? I think the defense I'm a little more intrigued by than the offense.
Is that worrisome though for you? I mean, or is it exciting, or is it kind of a nervous energy of like, man, if this works out, it's going to be great, but we just don't know what it's going to be? And look, I want to tell college football fans here for Penn State, Indiana, and just anybody that stumbles across this, don't take what you see and hear in spring and just automatically copy paste, and that's how the fall is going to go and your season's going to be great or going to be terrible, right? But for Penn State, is it a nervous energy of like, we don't know what we got, but the potential is there?
I don't think I have any nerves, because the expectations, I don't think there are any expectations here.
Even from the fans?
I mean, the fans expect to win, but there isn't this, well, you got to make the playoff. You got to win a Big Ten title. It's going 9-3 is going to be, I think, acceptable. So there isn't this a playoff or bust type of thing, right?
Okay.
And that's what ultimately did Penn State and James Franklin in this past season. That's what cost Franklin his job, is that he went all in. He said, we basically implied that we were going all in without saying that we were going all in, and then came up way short. I mean, it was flat out embarrassing. You didn't lose to Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. You lost to Oregon and then unraveled against UCLA and Northwestern, and pounding the table demanding, we got to get Jim Knowles. We got to keep these players around because this is our year. You can bank on it. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's where Matt Campbell comes in. He's not pounding the table saying, I need XYZ right now because I'm going to win you 11 or 12 games. This is the best team James Franklin said, this is the best personnel group I ever had. Bull. that team was 3-6 and then went 7-6 after you were canned.
Seems like there was an issue.
So I
I'm with you,
digress
but that
from
makes it exciting for you guys there in Happy Valley. We're excited.
There's no
for
pressure.
2 different reasons. Yeah,
there's no pressure
for you. I don't know if there's pressure for Indiana or not, to be quite honest. Because
you defended a national title. What do you mean, no pressure?
But you just won a national title. Are we cool, or is it? I don't know. I got to get the temperature of the fans. They're still celebrating. They're still excited about the portal.
I guess because it's so new and it's so quick. It's kind of like a shell shock of, did this really happen?
As soon as they hear the first whistle, see the first snap, and hear the first helmets collide together in spring ball, forget about the national championship this past season. We won another one. I can tell you Hoosier fans won another one, but we're still celebrating the one we just got.
Yeah, you'll be grateful for it because it was, I mean, you beat Penn State back to the national championship game. So I think over the course of 5 years, our expectations will change from today and then say, hey, it's pretty relaxed over here. Both you and I feel no pressure, but as time continues to go, again, Campbell has to make a statement and then Curt Cignetti has to defend his throne. So 6-6 is definitely off the table. But if you go 10-2 and take a step back, it's like, well, we won a national title last season when nobody expected that to happen. So we're still good. We're good.
Yep. Love it.
That's going to do it for this Locked On crossover here. We do this weekly, talking Big Ten football, specifically looking across the conference, talking Penn State and Indiana as well. Thank you so much for joining us here. Leave a comment, leave a like, be a part of the conversation. Subscribe to both of our YouTube channels and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around Penn State, Indiana, and Big Ten sports. My name is Zach Seyko, the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Jacob Goins, the host of Locked On Hoosiers. Thanks so much for joining us. Jacob, thank you for your time, your perspective. Can't wait to do it again in a week.
Always enjoy it, my man. Thank you.